Oh man, oh boy, I'm so excited. Oh, I heard Armored Core 6 just came out. Oh. Armored Core 6. Oh man. $60 fucking dollars? I don't got that money. What's that? Is that an obscure indie game made by an obscure indie company that came out back in 2020 that's also a mech fighting simulator with PvE and PvE modes that also has the ability to make you customize your mech and just make some crazy ass combinations of different builds? Why, yes it is. But why haven't you heard of this one? Well, I want to go over that and why I think this is a great, cheap alternative to Armored Core 6. That's right, I'm talking about the one, the only, Garrison Archangel.
Now, just what is Garrison Archangel? Well, if we go by the Steam page, Garrison Archangel is a fast-paced, customizable mecha fighting game designed for epic anime-style one-on-one and multiplayer team battles. Sound familiar? Well, that's because Armored Core 6 is a fast-paced, customizable mecha fighting game designed for epic... Do you see what I'm getting at here? Both Garrison Archangel as well as Armored Core 6 are very, very similar game. They both involve you building mechs, they both involve you in the PvE modes, going out and doing missions so you can buy shit to then build your mech better, and they both involve you going on contracts for different factions and companies, and like basically earning their favor and getting different endings of the story based on that specific detail. However, what sets them apart is probably biggest is their company. Garrison Archangel was made by a very, very small Filipino development indie team, whereas Armored Core 6 was made by From Software, one of the biggest and most reliable people in the gaming industry today. I personally think that Garrison Archangel took heavy inspiration from Armored Core games before Armored Core 6. As Armored Core 6 is not exactly a departure from those old games, they're very similar in style and in mission structure. Garrison Archangel also isn't much of a departure from these systems and all that. However, I do think it's a little different in how it presents this, like, working for different companies to get money. It kind of presents it in a way that I think the Armored Core games could have done more of, personally. This is specifically not necessarily the morality aspect. Armored Core has Garrison Archangel beat in its story and morality elements by a goddamn landslide. However, Garrison Archangel has it beat in its almost dynamic sense of the companies. When you work for one company, when you do jobs for one company, get money from them, the other company that is rivals towards that company you did a job for will then like you a little less. Continue doing jobs for that specific company so that you can get more rewards from that specific company. Well, then their enemy is going to hate you so goddamn bad, you can no longer buy any parts with their label, and eventually they'll start sending hitmen after you on your missions. And while, yes, you can then proceed to do missions for this rival company to hopefully get your rep back up on them, it's going to be pretty goddamn difficult, as it's harder to get rep up than it is to lose rep. One other thing I want to point out is that while Armored Core 6 has companies, Garrison Archangel has both companies and factions. Companies are mainly where you get parts, where factions is where the story mainly plays a part. Factions in Garrison Archangel have a lot of personality to them. Some of them are three factions stringed together in a massive empire that is sort of like a Christianity, but like in space, which is sick as hell. Whereas other factions are mafia families, and other factions are like oppressed peoples trying to overthrow tyrants. It's really cool. And one of the factions is just the league in which you do business and in which you fight other people like tournament style. And they have these really unique interactions. For example, if you support the Paragatti family, the mafia faction, then the Christianity and space factions will literally make it not only harder for you to even become friends with them, but eventually if you do enough missions for this mafia family, they will altogether declare war on you, and you'll get a ton upon a ton of mechs coming after you in your missions to kill you. Another example of this is when you side with the Rebels faction that are trying to throw over tyrants and all that. When you side with them, you get a completely different, completely unique end of the game. And another thing on Garrison Archangel is the fact that based on the factions you choose and side with, your ending to the game changes drastically. For example, in one hand you could be taking out a swarm of eldritch abominations to save the planet you're on, and in the other, you could be making sure those eldritch abominations do invade and kill. Or perhaps, in a specific case, which I won't be naming because I do want you to actually play the game and understand some of the story, you could help out one faction and support them in learning about these eldritch technologies, or you support with the other sided faction on this and say, no, we're not going through these old like enemies of our religion. We're gonna stop that, and we're not gonna go through their shit, and we're gonna kill you if you don't listen. That's basically it. And I think that's really cool, being able to choose the ending. And this is where I think it differs a lot from Armored Core 6. In Armored Core 6, the story is about you being a dog to your handler, Walter. You listen to his every move, you listen to what he says, you do what he says, no questions, you just want that goddamn cash. Whereas in this game, you are a fully functional human being, you are your own boss. Based on who you side with, and the ending you get is completely your decision. You choose to be a scumbag or a good person. You choose to get that extra money from the Mafia family, or you choose to have more people on your side with the space Christianity police. And I will say real quick that Armored Core 6 does have these choices near the end of the game, however they're not through the entirety of the game. And as well as for quite a few of these things you need to restart the game multiple times and play on New Game Plus. Whereas with Garrison Archangel, you could just immediately do this right out the jump. And I think that's really cool, and I almost prefer it from a story element. However, I will say Armored Core 6 has a much deeper and interesting story overall. Another way they are similar is in their gameplay. Both of them involve you going out on PvE missions to clear out waves upon waves of enemies, or going into PvP to fight one-on-one, and sometimes group play, which is, in Garrison Archangel, usually all v all, 2v2, or 3v1. There's no 3v3, unfortunately. However, in the gameplay, Garrison Archangel does have one key difference, and that is its weapons. You can still have a left and a right weapon, however, instead of two back weapons, you have shoulder and back weapons. And sometimes they're not weapons. Sometimes there's stuff like thrusters to give you increased mobility. Sometimes there's stuff like shoulder armor, or perhaps you put on a shield on your arm to hopefully give you more defense. As well as for each of your hand weapons, you have a special. This ranges from time specials to where you can only use them for a limited amount of time, level specials, which get stronger the more you use the weapon during the fight, and then there's also just generic specials, which you can use them at any time. For example, in the game, there is a rifle, which does pretty low damage, but it's decently mid-range, as well as once it's out of ammo, or at any time really, you could swap it into a spear configuration, so you could do melee, and while that happens, the rifle reloads for you. Or perhaps the big-ass sword, as I like to call it, my favorite weapon in the game, which the more you use it, the more it levels up. At level 1, it's practically useless. Don't ever use level 1. At level 2, it just shoots a big fucking laser that just says fuck everything in that general direction. And at tier 3, you get a practically insta-kill laser swipe across the screen to wherever you're pointing at. And god damn it, if it hits, you just fucking win. It is so goddamn fun. And I think personally this game is more balanced than Armored Core. You could pretty much use any fucking weapon you want and it be decently effective. Whereas Armored Core, if you use Zimmerman's, you might as well just say, I fucking win. Granted, it's not much more balanced by much. There are still some very fucking terrible weapons in this game. And some very, very terrible body part choices. But still, it's a little more balanced. These special attacks add a very nice layer to the combat. For example, let's say you have the Ravager Sword. It has a special where, for a limited amount of time, you could transform it into a longer, more effective, more damaging blade. However, if you do this, it's only for a limited amount of time, as well as to even unsheath the blade to its more stronger form, you have to be standing still and not being hit. So you unsheath it, and you have to guarantee that you're going to get hits in. because if you didn't, you then have to wait for the cooldown to go again to where you can use this more powerful mode. And if you're an opponent and you see them flick it out, you then have the opportunity to punish and stay away from them to make them waste their more powerful move so that you can punish them for it. It adds a nice little layer of PvP strategy. Of course, in PvE, it really does nothing except I hit button, I win half the time, which is kind of where I think Armored Core shines, honestly. Its PvE is way better than Garrison Archangel's. First of all, hard lock-on is automatically what Garrison Archangel does instead of soft lock-on like Armored Core 6 does, which is a far, far less preferable way. Not only, but Garrison Archangel's soft lock-on is very finicky, and I can find it'll target random-ass people without, like, yeah, this person's closer to me, but also it'll just target someone on the other side of the map, and then I'm trying to hit this person next to me, but I can't because I'm not locked onto them, so I have to go around wasting my boost to get over there and hit them. It is obscenely annoying, especially in group encounters. Jesus Christ. However, do not let any of that discourage you from playing. At its best, Garrison Archangel is as fun as any Armored Core game, especially Armored Core 6 before it. At its best, Garrison Archangel is basically Armored Core 6. It's finicky, and it's made by a very small indie company that probably didn't know what the hell they were doing. But god damn it, did they put out a good fucking product. Before I talk about how Garrison Archangel flopped faster than me landing on a banana because I'm a goddamn cartoon character if you've ever watched my streams, I want to talk about what you probably all came here. Is Garrison Archangel a good alternative to Armored Core 6? Well, here's what I say. In the Garrison Archangel Steam page, right above the area in which you can buy Garrison Archangel for $15, by the way, pretty dang cheap, you can go and check out a demo for the game. If you like the demo, get Garrison Archangel. It's going to be very worth your time. If you don't get it and maybe consider Armored Core 6. Armored Core 6, in my opinion, is just more polished Garrison Archangel and what Garrison Archangel could have been had people given the developers the time of day to make it good. Had people given Garrison Archangel the respect and the passion towards it that it deserves, just like the Armored Core games do. As for the reason Garrison Archangel flopped, I have a couple theories for this. One, terrible marketing. There are no ads for this game besides the 2 or 3 trailers they put out, and I don't think they ever paid for them to actually be turned into real ads. They just made YouTube videos of them. 2, budget constraints. It was so goddamn much money, and they weren't able to advertise it to as many people as expected. As such, they weren't nearly able to make their money back, and the company may have went bankrupt. 3, which I think is probably the least likely theory, is that there was conflict among the developers, but the developers honestly seemed like they were having a lot of fun together, so I doubt it's that. And the final theory is that it was too much ambition. They went out and tried to put out way more than they reasonably could, and eventually it bit them in the ass because there was no way they were going to be able to earn back what they could. Again, kind of going back to my second theory, but you get the point. Whatever the reason is, I want to point out that Garrison Archangel is a cheaper, a little less polished, a little bit more glitchy version of Armored Core 6 that I'd recommend picking up for anyone who doesn't have the money for Armored Core 6 at the time. However, if you do have the money for Armored Core 6, as much as I want this game to succeed, I have to be realistic and say that it's better just to get Armored Core 6. It's overall more polished, and it overall just has an entire better game with it, and developers that are still able to support it. However, that's going to be all for today's video. To summarize it all, it's just Garrison Archangel was a game that should have seen the light of day far more. I think with some time, it could have been one of the best mech shooters on the damn market. However, for whatever reason, it's not going to be able to, and Armored Core 6, the much more polished version of it, is definitely the version that you should try and save up for and pick up if you can. However, if you have the money right now and you really want to pick up something right now, grab Garrison Archangel.
I don't get what I want, I get what I need. Every single day I'm heading off to my dream, and I get everything that I damn well please. I don't give a damn if you all listening to me, cause I run it. I'm the only one that really want it, I'm the only one that's really on it. I'm just being honest, I'm just doing everything I promise, cause I want it bad enough that I'ma make it as an artist. And I know I'm not the smartest, and I know I'm not the